Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patrons, Kev Z, Jawone Y, Bob O, Paul F, and Gamer Zero. You're crazy, brother, but thank you all for choosing to support the channel. In case you recall that Model Y crash back November of last year where the driver said that he was slamming on the brakes but the car kept accelerating, well, the investigation's done. Turns out he had his foot on the accelerator the entire time, didn't touch the brakes. No surprise. If you watch the video, the brake lights never came on. I believe they're still waiting final word for the police investigation, but according to Tesla's event data recorder, this was 100% driver error. Matthew DR had a chance to chat with Tom Zhu after the Tesla Investor Day, and he dropped some interesting nuggets. Just in case you missed the anecdote yesterday at Investor Day, the Gen 3 platform will start in this New Mexico factory, but it will be copy and pasted to other Gigafactories in time. So yes, eventually this new, more affordable Tesla will be built globally, not just in Mexico. The word is the first Generation 3 vehicle will roll off the production line in Mexico in 18 to 24 months. That would take us to September 2024 to about March 2025. He asked Tom if the Gen 3 will be painted or stainless steel, and Tom smirked and said paint is expensive. Of course, that does not confirm anything, and as always, please be careful with information like this, but let's keep going. This one is honestly kind of a major announcement. He's saying Giga Mexico will be built at the same time as another Giga, which, the way I'm interpreting it, would be another Tesla Gigafactory announcement sometime in the next few months. Is it Canada? Is it Indonesia? Sounds like maybe we'll find out soon. In case you were wondering, all Gigafactory architecture, design, and construction is done in-house, so again, vertically integrated. Giga Shanghai ramped faster than Austin and Berlin because Shanghai copied Fremont's production and then Austin and Berlin had to figure out the structural pack. More confirmation that the Midnight Cherry Red and Quicksilver colors will not be coming to Austin, no plans to change it. We will see more proactive communication from Tesla soon. They now have country-specific Twitter handles and communications teams in Asia. They will roll out this strategy to Europe and North America. Tesla China is actively working with local Chinese regulators to approve the use of FSD in China. Matthew's also saying he has unbelievable news about the Cybertruck that he heard from Tesla execs but didn't break it yet. So there you have it, and unless Matthew is very good at Photoshop, I think this could be legit. And real quick, in the coming weeks, this is one area that I personally will be doing more research into. So I wanted to say if any of you are pretty well versed already in this space and wouldn't mind chopping it up with me for a little bit, please just shoot me an email on the screen. I'd be happy to get in touch. Along similar lines, I'll also be diving into how Tesla can pull off a permanent magnet motor with no rare earths. Just to drop this on your radar, and if you have other intel, please share it below, but Niron Magnetics, they apparently have technology world's first high-strength, rare earth-free permanent magnet. Their website says they have some patented manufacturing techniques that use crystal structure of iron nitride to obtain high-strength magnets, and they use commonly available iron and nitrogen raw materials. Just last November, this company got $17.5 million from the Department of Energy, and Niron is saying that they'll use it for commercial partnerships and pilot production of this rare earth-free clean earth magnet. To be clear, I'm not at all implying this company may have some connection to Tesla, just dropping this out there that this may be a company to keep an eye on as they could have some good technology and maybe it's somewhat like what Tesla is pursuing. Dave Lee also got some insight from a Tesla exec, and one thing he said, Mexican Gigafactory is for new markets, not the United States. The idea is to build cars in Mexico, for Mexico, Latin America, etc., just like we talked about with all of those free trade agreements. Point being, it may be a little bit longer until we see this affordable compact car actually make it to the United States, if this turns out to be accurate. Right now, there seems to be this big narrative going around that the entire Tesla supercharger network is now all going to be totally congested, and it's going to immediately become a terrible experience for Tesla owners. I just want to add some different commentary. And while I run through these points, this is supposedly the first V4 Tesla supercharger install in the Netherlands. But back to this congestion. Remember, only 10 to 20% of the Tesla supercharger network will actually be opening to CCS vehicles in the United States. Tesla will make sure that the first sites opened are low utilization sites, so they're not going to open up sites that are typically already congested. The network will also continue to expand, and at a faster pace. It's supposed to double by the end of 2024. We also have to remember certain high voltage CCS cars actually charge much slower on the supercharger network. I won't get into the technicalities of that, but just remember that. Oftentimes, the supercharger charging may also be more expensive than the CCS network at somewhere else like Electrify America, but that will vary as well. There will be a new wave of people testing the network, but this should settle into a peace of mind or a backup scenario for non-Tesla owners more than their primary go-to location for charging. So I just wanted to get some of those points out there and things to keep in mind. I found this Tesla service bill for the CCS Retrofit, this one specifically for the Model S. So this is a bit more expensive than what Drive Tesla Canada reported, but it looks like this total before tax came to $600. Total amount after taxes, $632. I do think some folks missed this from Tesla Investor Day, but this image has a bigger wall unit and then also this wireless charging induction mat on the ground. This is the woman that gave the presentation on Tesla charging. She is a baller. Her name is Rebecca Tanucci. She's been with Tesla for 5 years, now the Senior Director of Charging Infrastructure. Previously though, she was the CEO and co-founder of Evatron, which just happens to be a company that works on wireless EV charging. I was definitely impressed with Rebecca, so hopefully we hear more from her in the future. And of course, a solution like this would be very convenient, but my question will always be, what is the efficiency going to be like? Because if you're paying for a certain amount of power to come from the wall unit and you end up losing a lot of it that goes through here that ultimately reaches the battery, well, is that going to be worth the convenience? That's my biggest question. And no, I'm not questioning Tesla's ability. I'm just curious what the numbers will look like. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like we need another Cybertruck day before production begins so we can get all of our questions answered about this vehicle. One of many that I still have is, where is this tonneau cover rolling up into? Is it in the roof of the Cybertruck, or is it going down behind the back seats? I've honestly seen good explanations for both, and if I had to guess, I would lean toward the latter. Most of us know Rivian has had issues with its tonneau cover, so hopefully Tesla has a solution to make sure that this works properly with ice, dirt, rain, snow, and all of the elements. On Twitter, Josh West also shared this image of the gate for the Cybertruck, and as you can see, there is some weather stripping right here. So is this bad boy going to actually float? I do think there's a chance. And I don't think this is necessarily a standard feature across the industry. I guess we'll find out soon enough. It sounds like Giga Mexico is going to be massive in size. Word on the street is construction is slated to start in 3 months, which would take us to June 3rd. Giga Mexico is set to be on land spanning 4,200 acres. For context, Giga Austin is on about 2,500 acres. Initially, Tesla may be spending $5 billion, and if we want to call this a phase 1, that would be up to 5,000 employees. In the long run, that number could go to $10 billion and 10,000 employees. There are already plenty of auto suppliers in this area, and they're saying that more are coming, and this should be the world's largest EV factory. They're saying Giga Mexico will produce 1 million vehicles per year. No indication on if this is phase 1, if this is a long-term plan. For me though, based on everything we've heard so far, I do think the longer term number will be higher than 1 million vehicles per year. As Chonsu and Sawyer both pointed out, all of Giga Texas, the lithium refinery, Starbase, and Giga Mexico are all within a 7-hour drive of each other. What's more interesting is the governor of Nuevo León just talked about all of these locations in a recent interview. It's in Spanish, so I won't play it. It will be linked below, but just so you know, if you want closed captions in a different language, just click the gear, go to subtitles, then click Auto Translate, and then you can actually choose what language you want your subtitles in. Tesla has been officially approved for $330 million in tax abatements for the Giga Nevada expansion. It's typically best to not engage with the people that are saying, oh, here we go, a struggling company gets more government money, a bailout. Well, if you ever need a talking point, just remember Tesla has said that for every $1 in incentives Tesla got back in 2014 for Giga Nevada, they created $10 of economic activity. Just so you know, I'm not making that up. This latest amount is only about 25% of what they got back in 2014, which was $1.3 billion. We got the wholesale number for Tesla China for February, 74,402. This is both domestic and export. Plugging that number in right here and adding in our estimate for the domestic data from the weekly insurance numbers to then backdoor the math to exports, we may be looking at around 42,100 exports for the month. We should have official data here within the next week. Just a word of caution, plenty of people out there are saying these numbers are terrible because they're lower than Q4. Just remember, in the auto market, Q1 is almost always slower than Q4, and we've already talked about everything else going on in the Chinese market, so I'm not ready to read into these numbers just yet. With that said, though, this number is higher than some people were expecting. I think the unspoken number was around 60,000 for the wholesale figure for February. Ray is also saying, without sharing a source, that China may roll out new policy for incentivizing EV purchases. He did add this would be for all EV makers, not just China-owned. What do we have here? Dan O'Dowd saying, hey, people are accusing me of rigging my FSD test. Well, gee, I wonder why. Either way, he said, I would love to have Chuck sit in the driver's seat to replicate the test Dan O'Dowd wants to run. Chuck said he'd be glad to host Dan in Florida driving Chuck's Model Y, which has the extraction mod so they could put videos out that are not blurry and can be seen in 4K, so we can all hopefully see what any error messages on the screen are actually saying. We'll see if it happens. House Bill number 401 has just passed the Senate in Mississippi. It's not signed into law yet, but yes, this one is anti-EV makers, saying they have to go through the traditional dealership model in their state. No surprise, another protectionist type bill from the traditional car dealers, but one of the senators in Mississippi said this would cause the state to fall behind other states in the race to attract EV investment. He also said, maybe we just like being last all the time. Maybe it's a badge of honor. We're the last ones to change. I don't know what the likelihood of this passing is, but if signed into law, EV manufacturers would have to sell their cars through a franchise dealership. Yesterday, Tesla had a new patent published, this one for a multi-layer glass stack for a vehicle windshield with improved durability. It's a 3-layer stack, including an external facing glass layer, an internal facing glass layer, and an adhesive interlayer positioned between the two. I can't add much more, but the patent will be below. Ford is creating a wholly owned subsidiary named Latitude AI for research and development for autonomous driving. It sounds like, though, it's really just a transfer of the Argo AI endeavor, because the 550-person staff will largely be comprised of those employees from Argo AI. Around the time Ford shut down things with Argo AI, they said that going forward, they were going to focus on ADAS systems that included the human driver, not so much focusing on actual autonomy to be able to remove the human driver. It sounds like that's still the focus with Latitude AI. So they're focused on SAE levels 2 and 3 for next-gen Ford vehicles, and the initial task will be to develop a hands-free, eyes-off-the-road system. Ford also said that they're restarting F-150 Lightning production on March 13th. In addition, Ford said it's going to double the hourly assembly and bring its annual manufacturing run rate to a targeted 210,000 units by the end of 2023, this referring to the Mach-E. And that production of the F-150 Lightning is on track to triple this year. They're targeting annual production run rate of 150,000 by the end of this year. The company has sold 19,200 Lightnings since delivery started last year, and in the first 2 months of this year, they've sold 3,600. I think it's worth clarifying, Ford is not saying that they're going to produce 150,000 Lightnings this year, but by the end of the year, they expect to be at that run rate. Same thing for the Mach-E figures. We got a very quick teaser video for the upcoming Kia EV9. Sounds like the official unveil date will be March 15th, so just under 2 weeks. Waymo is laying off more staff, but this time it's actually engineers. Apparently, they're laying off 137 employees, they announced on Wednesday, which makes up about 8% of the workforce. Previously, they made cuts to more operational and administrative positions. Now they're cutting into the actual engineering talent, which of course is never great. But sometimes it's your only option. Tesla did just release the full slide deck from Investor Day, so that will be below as well. You can find me on Twitter at DylanLoomis22. Hope you guys have a wonderful and a safe weekend. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.